That's good.
Welcome everyone to Season 3, Episode 104 of the Premier Pod. I'm your host, Yash Bika, joined by my co-host, Tyler Chan. In this episode, before we started, usually we like to start things on a little bit of a positive note, but we have to mention an incident, a racist incident that happened after Manchester United's match against Sheffield yesterday, where United unfortunately lost 2-1 at home at Old Trafford to Sheffield United. But after the match, there was racist abuse that went on, I would say, quote unquote, United supporters. I wouldn't call them Manchester United supporters, but racist remarks that were on the pages of Anthony Martial and Axel Tuanzebe's Instagram posts. And it was pretty horrid stuff. And it was, terrible to see racist remarks, especially after just losing, a game at the end of the day. And, it was not a good sight to see. United had to release a statement that they're against racism. And it was good to see that the players were, all together and, banding together against this. And unfortunately, it's I work in social media. It's kind of sad to see that a lot of people hide behind social media and make, fake accounts to racially abuse these players. And it's I wish there was a way that a way you could stop this and, crack down on these fans, or I wouldn't even call them fans, just terrible people. I know United, when their statement, they said that these people are, I can't remember the exact words, but idiots. I think they actually said the word idiots. And I think I have to agree with them. It's just unfortunate. And I feel very, very sorry for Martial, his girlfriend that got the abuse as well. And Tuanzebe, because they definitely, no one deserves that. And it's just, it's still sad to see, but it's also, it's very apparent that, a lot of the work and a lot of the stances that these players take are very real, because they still unfortunately face a lot of these racial abuse. It's still prevalent around football, whether you're in England, Italy, Spain, wherever you go. Unfortunately, it's still a thing that that still kind of comes around, and hopefully one day we'll see it where it's not prevalent. But it was, it was very unfortunate to see that, wake up to hearing the news on that. And I'm happy that the players have banded together and became stronger for that, but you definitely don't want to see that. But it was not a, I've said it before, like when people go out and start attacking or abusing people in general after a loss in a game, that's one of those things I usually tell people, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and just be like, what are we doing here? It's just, yeah, you support the club. Yeah, you want them to win and succeed. But at the end of the day, you can't control the results that happen. Some days you just lose. But I've said it before. I think it's just ridiculous. But Tyler, I don't know if you had anything to chime in real quickly before I guess we move on to our next topic. But yeah, it was not a good sight to see in the Premier League.
Mm. I definitely got some things, and you basically hit the nail on everything, but I did want to say it is a dang shame that there are people like this, especially with the movement going on right now, where it's just saying no to racism. Like every game, there's everyone taking the knee, and then right afterwards, it's like as if everyone forgot about it. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is, we've mentioned it before it's sad that we've mentioned it before, and then we're still having to talk about it here and then. But in the end of the day, soccer is just a game, and it's not anything to warrant these kind of remarks, these kind of racial abuse like accounts, and these kind of just slurs. It's just very uncalled for. It's why for the people to even like go through all this and just think to even do it. It's just, it still boggles my mind. I'm like, what? Really, after all this time, is still haven't learned?
Yeah,
I think it's something we're gonna have to take a lot of time to like kind of fix. It's gonna take a lot of just education and awareness, but hopefully over time we'll see less of this. But for now, it's still pretty prevalent, and it's a shame to see Tuanzebe and Martial and his girlfriend just go through all this. It's just hard to watch, really.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's like, it's kind of sad that it's kind of happened at almost every club somehow, some way during the past couple of seasons. I know we seen it at Chelsea, we've seen it at Tottenham, we've seen it at Manchester City, we've seen it at United now, we saw it at Crystal Palace with Zaha, we saw it at Burnley, obviously, but it's something that's still prevalent here. And we all got to do our best to educate ourselves and become more aware and, stop these acts when they do happen, because it's not fair to these players to go through that. But that is kind of a sad note to start the show, but it had to be said. Definitely had to be said, because can't stand up for, you got to stand up for what's right there. But we wanted to switch topics over to some big news that happened. There was a lot of news that happened this week while we were, since we last recorded our show. Frank Lampard, unfortunately, finally got the sack as Chelsea manager. He won his FA Cup match during the weekend, but Chelsea decided to make the news, I believe, on Monday. I believe it was Monday that they decided to go ahead and sack him. And it was not very surprising news, because we've been talking about that, hey, this could be happening. But it was a little interesting. I was reading some more reports on it, that Chelsea were actually planning to sack him during Christmas. They were already lining up some replacements during the Christmas time. And I would say that was really around the time Chelsea started to dip in form. So that, I don't know, it just kind of speaks about Chelsea's board and the culture that they were already looking for replacements that early. But unfortunately for Frank Lampard, a former club legend, a club legend that won so much at Chelsea, just couldn't get it done as manager. And I'm just going to be interested to see how this kind of affects his relationship going forward with Chelsea and how the fans view him, because it's always a roll of the dice when you try to go after a former legend to manage your club, because it could end in a very sour note, like we saw with Chelsea. So I'm very curious to see how the Chelsea fans view Lampard now, knowing that he didn't succeed as a manager, and whether Lampard now has ill feelings towards Chelsea now, knowing that he just got the sack so soon. So I don't know. It's something to look out for. I don't know, Tyler, do you think that Lamps is going to be kind of salty over Chelsea for the time being, or do you think he's going to be like, he's just going to just accept it as it is what it is type thing?
I think he'd be the type to accept it as it is what it is, given that he's been at Chelsea. He's seen it as a player, just seeing just the revolving door of managers. And you basically called it too during the last podcast. You were saying, it's like, I think Lampard's out, like it's sooner than later. And then I was thinking, I don't know. I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. I feel like Roman Abramovich has gotten so far with him so far and still hasn't sacked him. Like maybe they'll give him the end of the season, and then 3 days later, it's like, oh, never mind. But I will say Roman Abramovich, this is the first time he's actually publicly come out and, said something about the sackings. Like, we have full respect for Lampard, yada, yada, all those kind of positive messages. And that's the first time he said that about any manager since he's been an owner, like for 18 years. So This is a lot of respect for Lampard. It's still kind of sad that he still got the sack. But even then, his record this season, and of course, we've been just roasting it for most of it this season, it's just not great. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they're sitting in 8th right now in the Premier League. And, they're not really getting the most of all their luxury buys, all their new £220 worth of players.
Yeah.
But despite all that, I felt like Lampard just needed a little bit more time. But at Chelsea, you don't really get that time. And with Tuchel just being available after being sacked by PSG, I think it was more Lampard being sacked because Tuchel was available rather than Lampard being sacked because of just the current form. So that's a little unfortunate, but I think for the youngsters, this should be a pretty decent, managerial hire, because Tuchel's really good at developing players. He developed and gave Pulisic his big chance while at Borussia Dortmund. So having him back at Chelsea just to develop Pulisic a little bit more will be good. I think Thiago Silva's going to be like, man, you again.
Can't get away from this guy.
Can't get away from this guy. But I don't know. I don't know if Tuchel will really overall perform better than Lampard. I think it'll still be kind of rough on him. Like everyone that I've seen on Twitter, at least, that are kind of putting in their 2 cents on this, I feel like are on the same page as I feel like Yash and I were. It's just like, I think he's not really set up for success. It's just, how long will it be till the next firing?
Yeah, so. It's a bit odd one right there. I wanted to quickly go back to Lampard real quickly and just some of the reports I was reading about why it didn't work out. A lot of the senior players felt that Frank Lampard didn't do enough tactically to get them to prepare them for matches, but also help elevate their game. And they were talking about specifically players like Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, that they were back in the Bundesliga. They were under managers that were very tactical minded, like very like straight up tacticians of the game. With Julian Nagelsmann, and then I believe it was like Peter Bosz, right, for Leverkusen. Excuse me if I'm getting the manager wrong there, but very tactical, tactical minds there. But with Lampard, in the reports I was reading, it wasn't really like that. And they said that in the beginning, Lampard was getting and still got a lot of respect from the Chelsea youngsters because that was a player that they grew up with and respected a lot and kind of adored. So the Lampard was able to get good performances out of, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, and such, because these guys were young Chelsea products that grew up watching Lampard win everything at Chelsea, and they were saying that kind of helped him a lot during his first season, but it was just down to him not being able to develop some of the senior players and ruffling the feathers with them. And also, they were really disappointed by that they weren't able to help develop Kai Havertz and Timo Werner fast enough, and they were really underperforming. And that's what kind of led them to get Tuchel. But I was reading some reports on Tuchel that under his time at Dortmund and at PSG, specifically at Dortmund, even though he was pretty decent, he did ruffle a lot of feathers because he made a lot of controversial decisions. I think he replaced a lot of the stalwarts of Dortmund's team that were there during Klopp's era. He kind of replaced them. They were a little bit older, but these were like some of the stalwarts that were part of the Dortmund team. And the board didn't really like it, and the CEO, I believe, were not in favor of it, and that created a lot of tension between the two. And Tuchel kind of, that ended up being his demise there. But I did hear good things about. He's a really good tactical mind. Like, he's very able to switch things up on any given basis, and he gets a lot out of his players. He's very like he kind of has the. He's almost, I wouldn't say Klopp alike, because I think that's kind of a cheap way to put it. But, he does have a pressing style of play, likes to press after losing possession and such. And, progressively, I think he's a good attacking coach. But I don't know how much he can get out of Chelsea, because I think they do have a lot of young attacking talent. But I still think they're missing some of the key pieces they need to challenge for titles and such. Because I said this before, I think they need sort of that midfielder that can kind of boss things around. And they don't really have that. I know they have Conte that can, win the ball back and such as a CDM, but I still think they're missing that that kind of like that powerful midfielder that can just create and do everything for them. They don't really have that. So I don't know. I think I think this will definitely give Chelsea a boost, but I don't know how much of a boost they can get, because I still think they're too far off from like challenging for the title right now, because they just lost so many points during this time.
I'm just still more interested to see what's going to happen to Lampard's son, Mason Mount.
Oh my goodness!
I guess he'll just go wherever Lampard goes now, because I just see all these memes.
Yeah, there was a Harry Potter meme. It's like, how dare you stood? I was like, how dare you stand where he once stood, or something like that.
Yes, I saw that one too. And then people are like, man, what are we supposed to do with all these fat Lampard memes now that he's gone? What are we supposed to do? But I mean, we're gonna have to wish best of luck to Lampard wherever he may go. But now we have Tuchel ball, and even in the first game under Tuchel, like, he literally was the manager within 3 days or 4 days.
One training session.
Yes, like, it was just over. I think like the players were told, like, don't come in the morning, and then they came in at night, and then it's like, all right, you have Thomas Tuchel as your manager now. Like, literally, it was just like that abrupt. And then during their first game, they had 820 passes, which is the most passes that have occurred from one team so far in the Premier League this season. So that's already a little glimpse of probably what you'll see with Tuchel ball this season. It's going to be kind of weird to see that like automatic switch. And it was actually kind of fast. I guess it was very conservative just to have his first game. Maybe that's why they had so much possession, but we'll see. Because if he doesn't make any dents into the Premier League this season, which is what he was mainly brought in for, which is like the goal of Chelsea this season, just to actually get into top four, even challenge for the title. If he doesn't do that, I'm not going to be surprised if he gets sacked within a year.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, exactly. But I think what he has going for him, though, is I think Chelsea do have a bit of a youngish squad with like younger attacking talent. So maybe under his tutelage, he can help develop them to become better players. So maybe that might be able to help him. But yeah, it's a bit of an odd one because Tuchel is kind of a win now manager. He's also a development manager, but when you think of Tuchel, the clubs he's been at, it's like, okay, like how can we win now with what we have? And with Chelsea, he's going to have to do that. But I don't know. It's going to require a lot of him to get the best out of his players. But in terms of expectations for him, I feel like maybe because they're going to get a new manager bounce, obviously, I think maybe they could get into the top 6. It's going to be a little bit hard to get into top 4, but I think they can get into top 6 again. And I think they could get past the round of 16 in the Champions League, but after that, I don't think they can challenge any further, especially with having a new manager and such. I think it's going to be too much. So I think expectations, Chelsea fans, I think you be a little bit tempered. Tyler, do you think they can win it all in the Champions League or challenge anything for the time being? FA Cup and nothing?
My expectations for them are pretty low, not gonna lie. It's just the chemistry is just the biggest thing. It's something I feel like we've been hinting as like a general theme of this season for Chelsea, where it's like, of course it's not going to work out. Like half the team are just new people. So it's like they have to have some time to develop. But, you know, under Abramovich, it's like, I don't care. It's like, you better win or you're out. So I think the expectations for Chelsea are much higher and a little unreasonable. But at least for me, I can see it's like, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
If they get anything, it'll be very lucky, but I don't see them getting too far in anything this season in any competition.
Yeah, well, there you go. We got Tyler. Tyler's very not optimistic about their chances. I'm not feeling it either. I'm kind of tempered off as well, but we'll see what happens. And then kind of just looking back at the FA Cup as well, Manchester United did beat Liverpool 3-2 at Old Trafford in that FA Cup win. It was a bit of an odd one because Liverpool did take a lead in that one, and then United roared back, and then United made a defensive mistake. Liverpool answered back 2-2, and then United were able to pick up the winner with Bruno Fernandes scoring a free kick. But it what was weird, when I looked at the results, I saw a post that Klopp in the FA Cup has been he actually has a horrible record in the FA Cup. He continuously just gets knocked out during this same round almost every year. And Tyler, do you think that is down to Klopp not caring about the FA Cup, or do you think there's actually something wrong where he's just he just can't get it right in the FA Cup for some reason?
I think it's just I originally I would say it's because he doesn't start his best starting 11, but in this game he put out a pretty strong starting 11.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a combination of, at least this season, it looked like he really was going full force into FA Cup compared to previous seasons. I think he would have placed the B team, but even the United squad, I saw y'all put a pretty strong starting 11 too. I was just thinking, it's this might be just that rematch round 2, basically. I thought going into this it'd be another snooze fest, but 3-2. I was kind of texting Yesh during this too. I was like, this is a pretty entertaining one. So what happened to the first matchup?
I think it was both managers getting comfortable, but I think it was one of those things where you didn't want to be the manager that played a weak team and then have the other manager play a really strong team and then just get blown out. So I think they were just they were mind games, times 100.
It's still a big matchup too. You can't just go into this kind of matchup and then play.
Unless you're Mourinho. And just say,
Mourinho,
yeah. He literally said I don't think it's a big rivalry. It's just a normal match.
But I feel like as you said, every time I see Liverpool playing the FA Cup, it's always they get kicked pretty early. Carabao Cup, they've made it to the finals once against City and lost. And then
it was his first season, right?
Yeah,
it was his interim season.
It was some rough times.
It's Willy Caballero somehow, right? It was a penalty shootout. Willy Caballero.
Yeah, I remember watching that in my friend's dorm, just standing around his computer while his roommate was asleep. And then it was just us cheering and then us crying in silence. So I don't really have that many great memories of domestic cups right now, at least. But I was kind of hoping low-key that Liverpool would go far in the FA Cup, because this is a competition that Klopp hasn't won yet.
Yeah,
So
it's a bit
I kind
odd
of want
that
him to win like one of everything.
yeah, it's kind of odd that he's been able to like dominate the Premier League for the past couple seasons and go back to back Champions League finals in another seasons, but he can't get past the domestic cups. And whether that's one of his reasonings of like maybe resting some players, or maybe you just never know the psychology around it. I just find it very fascinating that the biggest story I took away was like, how the heck does this manager, like, how does he keep getting knocked out of the FA Cup so early on? It doesn't quite line up with his record and everything. It could be just the magic of the FA Cup. Anything's possible type thing.
I think it is the wizardry of the FA Cup, just that pixie dust magic. But I would say even going into this game, Liverpool didn't really have that much momentum either. It was a game when we finally scored in 2021. So I was excited
scored
about
twice.
that.
He scored a brace.
I was like, "Whoa, we scored!"
He scored a hat trick, right?
No, he scored twice.
Oh no, he scored twice. They only scored twice. United.
He was on hat trick alert, but couldn't get it.
Yeah, I saw the young defender you guys had made a crucial mistake for United's second goal. Like it was like just one of those like easy clearances, and then he just had the mistake there, and then just kind of let United in.
Yeah, Reece Williams made another mistake. It's a little rough. A lot of Liverpool fans are very split. It's just I'm on the side of we definitely need to get a new center back. That's something I've been voicing for a little bit. And then other fans are like, no, we're fine. We got Reece Williams. I'm like, all right, he literally is a kid. He's like, what do you want him to do? Help us win the Premier League or the Champions League? He's like, no, we need help. Like we need experience.
How old is he actually?
I believe he's probably like late teens or like early 20s. It's like, I know he's younger than us, but he's huge. But
that's young.
That is definitely
there was
not
reports that someone mentioned that apparently like Subotic, that old Dortmund center back, apparently he's available as a free agent. They're like, Liverpool should go out and sign him because of Dortmund, like Klopp's ties with like Dortmund and Subotic. But I was like, I haven't heard of that guy's name in like so long. I don't know if he's even good.
I'm sorry. It's just I remember back in the days I played FIFA 12 or 13 with one of my friends who doesn't really know, like he doesn't really follow soccer too much, but he just bought the game and then he used Dortmund. He was like, "Who's this guy, Subotic?"
Subotic.
I was like, "Holy crap!" This is the first time hearing that one. I was like, "All right."
Did you correct him, or you just let him go with it?
No, I just let it go. I just kept calling him Subotic after that. I was like, I guess that's his name now. That's way better.
Oh man! But yeah, there was like
bring him in. I'll take him.
Yeah, no, I think you guys definitely need to go out and get a center back because it's not good playing a bunch of center defensive midfielders as center backs, and Matip can't stay healthy. He keeps getting injured.
But right now we're recording. It's January 28th.
Yeah,
we still don't have a center back unless we can get him by Sunday, like 3 days from now. It's not. I don't know. I don't think it's happening. I think it's a struggle train. I think it's a mistake to not get another center back, but unfortunately, I am not the one in charge of the board and the monies. So
hey, for me, if you're a City, kind of transition to our other point, but if you're a City, you could just like panic buy and get a January center back in.
Could have panic buy 2 players.
Yeah, could have got a whole new starting 11 possibly.
No, like here you go.
But unfortunately, that kind of leads us into our next point is about City. They are currently a game in hand, top of the Premier League table with by 1 point. They still have a game in hand, and they are an 11-game win streak in all competitions. They had the least amount of goals conceded on any Premier League team with only 13, which is incredible. But the way it's coming, it looks like City, it could be that year where City just runs away with the title again just because of how well they're playing. And it's really sad to see because for me, it's annoying because they already spent so much on their defense this summer when all these other, like literally when every Premier League club was kind of strict with their budget. I know Chelsea spent a lot too, but City literally spent like $500 million on a defense. They bought Ruben Diaz and they bought Nathan Ake. Then in the years past, they bought Kyle Walker, they bought Cancelo, they bought Mendy, they bought John Stones, they bought Laporte. Laporte was supposed to be like their number one guy. He doesn't even play. And it's just annoying because they also bought Ferran Torres and stuff. It's just annoying because they somehow they have this unlimited money and they just go out and buy. And in a lot of ways, it makes it just unfair because Pep kind of has an unlimited amount of resources on his in his back pocket. And when you have that, and when you have a manager like Pep, you can only just keep getting better. And they've been doing this without Aguero too. They've just managed to win all these games without Aguero too. So that's the part that makes me really sad, is just seeing City and the oil money just keep on winning. And it's just like, I don't want to see this again. Please, no.
I'm mostly scared of that last part you said. Aguero's not even playing.
Yeah.
They're not even full force, and yet Man City are top of the table with a game on hand. So I think it's still a little too early. I think there's still a title race, in my opinion, just because of just the pure chaos of the season, where it's just you don't know what's going to happen. You never know. Maybe someone gets injured. I know you never want to wish on that on any team, but like, it can happen, especially with this season, with the lack of conditioning and just the lack of just the time to really rest between, I would say, in between games. It's just something a little different about this season. So
tough.
I think, City, they're in a bit of a lucky stretch right now. They went through a few games where they didn't really face too crazy of competition. They faced Villa, but the others were like, West Brom, Brighton, Crystal Palace. It's like, all right. So who knows? Maybe once they start, they did take apart Chelsea and Man U in the past month or two. But I mean, even then, the key to winning the title is consistency. It's just so we have to see if they can just continue doing this, or if they're going to hop on the train of everyone else in the Premier League right now and just start losing the occasional game. Like
hopefully. They actually play Sheffield next, which is funny. You never know. Maybe Sheffield can pull the double Manchester upset, which would be wild.
Sheffield have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Should we hop on that game? Should we hop on that, Yosh?
For the preview?
Yeah. No. For the recap.
Yeah. Well, it's actually coming up soon. So a little sneak preview there. But no, they need David McGoldrick to just like go ham and go insane. And like, I don't know, Rhian Brewster somehow scores his first Premier League goal and scores a goal for Sheffield or something like that.
Way to do it.
But that's the thing that annoys me about City. I think we both mentioned, it's just I just don't want to see them succeed. It's like one of the clubs that I just can't stand more than anything. But they're on a hot streak right now. But a team that is currently in 5th place right now, that is on a hot streak as well, a team you probably wouldn't have even expected to be anywhere near the top after their recent runs in the Premier League the past couple of seasons. It's a David Moyes-led team. It is West Ham United. They are on fire right now. Thomas Suchek, somehow this guy who's a CDM scores like 2 goals a game. I feel like this guy just keeps on scoring. I don't know how to explain how West Ham are doing this, because they sold Sebastian Haller, and obviously he wasn't really performing for them, but kudos to David Moyes. He finally got the squad he wanted. He got players that actually wanted to be there, and they're performing. So maybe that's I've said this before, but clubs need to. West Ham was always that club that just bought a lot of the has-beens of the Premier League or Europe. I'm glad that they finally stopped doing that, and they're just picking quality players that work hard, work for each other, are not people that like Samir Nasri, Jack Wilshere, Felipe Anderson and the company. Like, they're just quality players that just try hard every single time and give their all, and it's worked out. And David Moyes is leading them to a very, very, very good run of form right now.
A lot of people are suspecting if City lose this weekend, there's a good chance West Ham it's just that season West Ham wins the Premier League title. It's like all chaos.
Like they should have won it in that Dimitri Payet season.
Oh yeah. that was like the last big run.
That was literally the last good season they've had. Was that 2015,
was like
16. So that's what, 5 years? 6 years? God, that's a while.
Making me feel old. But
yeah, jeez.
Right now, it's, I always think of West Ham as that working man's team. Like, you think of Dirk Kuyt as like the working man's player. It's just West Ham, the entire team is just the working man's group, where it's just everyone, as Josh was saying, just working hard. There's not really too many superstars on that team. Yet, David Moyes, of all people, is leading them to success. So, if anything, I kind of want to see how far they can go. It's just one of those wild times where like last season, that wild team that was in this position was Sheffield United, but
Yeah.
right now it's West Ham. And if this season's a lot different, I honestly think if there's a chance for them to not win the title, but maybe get top
four.
six, top four, maybe. No, I don't know about top four, but top six, maybe. Yeah.
This is the season.
This is the season.
Yeah.
So Suchek and Michael Antonio, put those teams on your back. This could be it.
No, it's I agree with you. I'm kind of seeing. I want to see how far West Ham can go. I wonder how far they can keep this up, because they were definitely not a team. I thought they were going to be good, but I didn't think they were going to be this good going into this season. So it's pretty cool to see that they are picking up this momentum and performing well. But wanted to quickly mention just two more Premier League games, and we got some stuff. Manchester United, Sheffield. Sheffield unfortunately beat Manchester United 2-1. The title race is done. The dream is dead. Not really. They're still in it. It was just a bad loss, a kind of deflating one, because the players overall just didn't perform up to the level that they should have. It was very lackadaisical, I would say, for the most part. A lot of players are just kind of jogging around, no real urgency. And it was funny. Gary Neville actually pointed out a tweet, and a lot of pundits agreed that if there were fans in the stadium, those fans wouldn't have allowed that type of performance to happen. They would have got really underneath the players, and in a lot of ways, like force them to play faster, force them like urgency on them. But obviously, everyone is dealing with the no fans part, so I don't want to use that as an excuse. But I think it's a good point to point out that if there were fans, I feel like a lot of these home performances would be better. But there was a stat that United this season have spent more time losing than they've actually had winning at Old Trafford, which is crazy to think. Because as amazing as their away form has been this season, they're like miraculous away. Their home form is just horrid. They have so many losses. They got blown out by Tottenham. Really, the best result was probably the Leeds United game when they won 6-2. But really, their home performances have been bad, and I don't know what to chalk that up to, because it's just they're really odd that they can't perform well at home.
I really do think it's a part of just not having the fans, because I'm not going to say, but Man City are still doing well, as if it made no difference that they're
just going on like normal.
Yeah, it's just normal. It's like, I don't really see too much difference here at the Etihad. Well, meanwhile, you see like Man U, you see Liverpool, even Tottenham. I would say it's a lot different not having the fans, but Man City is just all the same.
Yeah,
but I really do think there's a big factor. I think like Liverpool and Man U, certain teams like Arsenal as well, I think would be doing a little bit better if there were fans in the stands. That kind of rhymes. But
yeah, that was a good rhyme right there.
It really does play a factor, because when you're playing for the fans, it really does give you that extra boost. I feel like sometimes, like when you're playing a sport, and then like you got someone in the crowd that's just like, they're going to roast you if you do bad.
Yeah, so that added pressure. A little added pressure and such.
Yeah, but like, if you're just playing in a mural and then no one else is there, and then, you score a hat trick, it's just like, well, if a tree fell in the woods and no one saw it, no one heard it didn't fall, it's like, so it's just like, you kind of want to do it for them too when they are there. But without that motivation, really is just up on team and the players and their own, not ego, but like they're just their own motivation and their own,
like coaching staff and such.
Yes,
to get them go.
I was losing the word. I was like,
yeah. And I agree with you. I think also for United, I think this was a good kind of wake up call, because I hopefully like it just kind of gets in their heads that they need to start faster and they need to start more secure. Like they cannot keep going down 1-0 in games and finding a way to come back, because, I think everyone you talk to, every United fan knew like that's not a sustainable way to keep winning. It's not, because you're eventually the luck is going to run out and you're going to lose. And I'm glad, unfortunately, it sucks that it happened to Sheffield, but it was bound to happen. And I'm glad it happened sooner than later, because this team needs a wake up call that, hey, we need to perform better and faster and not keep going down 1-0 to games, because we can't keep having this luck of just coming back and such. So I think it was a good wake up call. It was a bad result. I was pretty sad, but we're still in the title race. We still got top four. We're still in the FA Cup and such. We're still got competitions that we're in. So we just got to keep the momentum going forward. It was a little blimp in the road. We just got to keep going forward. So that's what I have to say on the match. it was a bad display, but it's just one of those blips in the road. So I'm just hoping they can use this as fuel to keep going and get better for the rest of the season. But a team that got a win, that desperately needed one, was Liverpool. In a big match today, actually, it was a Big Six match that actually didn't end up 0-0. 4 total goals scored, 3-1 Liverpool win over Tottenham, and it was a sort of vintage Liverpool. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think he had a goal and an assist, I believe. So he performed a lot better in this game attacking wise. But Mane scored, Firmino scored, and Trent scored. So it was, it was good for Liverpool fans, I would feel like, to see Firmino and Mane score, because the front three in general have been on a huge dry spell. So it was probably good for you to see that they finally scored.
Mm-hmm. It was a really exhausting game to watch. I felt like, because back and forth. It was also during work time, so it's just it was exhausting just going up and down, just like iPad work. And so it's like it was a good game to watch because it was very fast and it was very makeshift. I felt like, and part of the defense and for both sides, because Harry Kane unfortunately went out from an ankle injury at halftime. Matip had to go out due to an injury during halftime as well. And then both sides had young center backs, and Tottenham had a center back I never even heard of, Rodon. At first, I thought the commentators were saying Rhoda. I was like, when did Sebastian Rhoda go to Tottenham? What the heck? But it was like, no, it's like their own youth center back. And unfortunately for them, he was playing a pretty good game until the second half when he made the mistake and let Mane score. But I felt like because of those little times when you just have to, your cards are dealt. It's just you have to play due to injuries or just due to rotation, and it was a little unfortunate because Tottenham, they're doing pretty well in the first half, and it did give me a slight heart attack when Son scored in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, but it was offsides, right, by like a hand or something like that.
Thank goodness the VAR cheese hit Tottenham instead this time. But I mean, Liverpool did have one goal that was called back for Salah because of a handball from the build-up
counterattack.
But it was nice to see, as you said, Yash, the front three actually score despite Salah's getting redacted, and then seeing Trent score actually, because these players were like the stars last season, and then this season it's like, where they been? But this game they came back. I felt like they came back finally, and they just kind of stomped on the necks of Tottenham. Just kept going. They just kept going. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, where was this ferocity? And Klopp, he was just so angry in the first half. He's been so angry like this whole month because they haven't scored in the Premier League until January 28th in 2021. It took 28 days to score in the Premier League, and they finally scored 3 against Tottenham. So I think this is a big motivator. I think they'll go into the weekend with that motivation and a happy Klopp, which is something we all like to see. So
yeah, it's definitely a lot better than the grumpy Croft that's like firing back at like people and like chasing managers down like a tunnel and such.
Chasing Sean Dyche down the tunnel.
But I think in classic this rivalry form, that a center defensive mid for Tottenham scores a banger somehow in this game, because Højbjerg, who never scores, somehow the ball got rolled out to him and he just hits it. Like the cleanest strike in the world. It gets Tottenham back in the game. But then we were talking off the air, and I couldn't remember his name, but obviously now I know it now. It was a former Southampton midfielder, oddly enough, that went to Tottenham that scored a banger. It was Victor Wanyama a couple seasons back, where he scored an absolutely like it was almost like karate style, right? Like he kind of went up in the air and just smacked it like as hard as he could, which is insane. It was
like EA scripting in FIFA. It was just like, of all players too. I was like, come on. It was, and yeah, as you mentioned too, it was like, of course it was a Southampton CDM.
Yeah.
Too. I was
like, who never scores. Like Pierre Højbjerg has not scored, I don't think, this entire Premier League season, and he just scores an absolute, he just scores an absolute worldie. Yeah. And he just scored an absolute worldie, but it wasn't enough for Tottenham. I think Liverpool just did a good job of exploiting them on the counterattack. There were talks though, I know that in the broadcast, they were talking a lot about Gini Wijnaldum, how it's looking more and more likely that he'll end up leaving Liverpool rather than returning and signing a new contract. Do you think that's true, or do you think that Gini will hopefully stay, that they can offer him enough money to stay, because I think there were reports that they offered him a new contract back in December too, and he still hasn't accepted or signed anything.
Right now, it's still up in the air, even for most Liverpool fans, because of course I would want him to stay. He's one of the key cornerstones of the team, and if you just go back just like the past few seasons, he's been the reason why we've won some games. Like that Barcelona, the famous Barcelona comeback was because he got subbed on, and he does so much. Like even this game today, like he was so good at ball retention. He was so good at making sure we could switch from playing defense to offense, like that transition. He was the maestro of it. So I think for this season, a lot of people were speculating that we're not selling Wijnaldum because he's too valuable just to even not have for one season. It's worth taking the risk of not selling for like say 20 million pounds and then letting him go on a free than to just sell him for the 20 mil and not have him for the season. And I'm on that train too, because if you take him out, there's not really that many other players on the team that can replace him. We're still developing Curtis Jones, Naby Keita. Who knows where he is right now?
Like in a bad way or a good way?
Yeah, like he's always injured, or it's just like something's always up. I wish Naby was here, but it's just like, where is he? Where's he at? So
yeah, because I remember you had I think like earlier in the season, you were talking about how he could be the kind of the key man for Liverpool towards this season, that they need him to kick on.
Mm-hmm. But here we are. I really hope he stays. I really like him as a player. Yeah, I don't have a jersey yet too.
I think that's good for you guys though, as Thiago is starting to get some more minutes and such under his belt. I don't know. I think Thiago's been decent enough, but I don't think I think he probably needs more games to finally start controlling and dictating the game more. I still think he's kind of not passenger. I think he still can dictate the play, but I don't think we're seeing the best of him yet. And I'm curious to see when that will happen. He just has to stay healthy, because he unfortunately got a head injury this game, but he's been in and out of the lineup because of COVID and also injuries. So you guys kind of need him to kick on and start performing at a world-class level consistently.
Yeah, we saw headband Thiago today. He was just going off, but at the same time, this is also his first game he's won that he started for Liverpool.
That's kind of crazy.
5 games for him to finally win one. So
that's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. It's also kind of sad.
Do you think he's do you think overall he'll be like have a good career, or do you think like at Liverpool, or do you think like if he were to have like a really strong like Liverpool career, it would have to been like having a strong season this season and next season? Because I know he's like older too, so I don't know how long he can perform at like a super high level before.
He's still like 29, so
he's 29. I thought he was like 30.
Well, he might be turning 30 this year, something like that. But I still think he has a few good miles left in him, and I think he's too good to not have a good season with Liverpool. I think he's just too good of a player. Like he's one of the best 11, like arguably in the world last season. So I think whatever he does, whenever he's on the field, he'll just work his magic, and then he'll just help the team out no matter way. So ultimately, we do determine when players do well based on like certain statistics, like how many trophies did they win that season? Did they win like personal accolades, like most assists, things like that? It's kind of hard for Thiago because of the position he plays to win like the personal accolades, besides like FIFA best starting 11, things like that. But I think Liverpool are not done winning trophies. I think we're still a really good side. Klopp's going to be here for a few more seasons, and we still got the core of the team starting to age a little bit, but I still think they're still well in their primes for at least the most like big players like on the team, like Mane, Salah, Henderson's kind of getting there. And then of course when Van Dijk's back, it'll be a whole different story. So
yeah, I think that's the key man. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting because I know he's been in and out of the lineup, so I just wanted to hear your perspective on that. But moving on quickly to the some of the transfers that happened. One interesting one for Arsenal fans, could be pretty exciting news for you guys. You guys signed Martin Odegaard from Real Madrid on loan. And this is a pretty big move because I'm sure all of you know his story. I think he was 15 or 14 years old. He signed for Real Madrid back in 2014-15 season. And he's supposed to be this wonder kid. It's taking him some years to develop, obviously, because you can't put that much pressure on such a young child, a young teen. But at Real Sociedad, he was a immaculate, exciting midfielder to watch. He was scoring goals. He was assisting goals. Hasn't really kicked on this season, but I heard that a lot of people say that if he can find some of that magic at Sociedad and replicate it at Arsenal are getting a really, 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 really attacking minded, very, very smart player, almost Mesut Ozil in a sense, where he's very good at picking out passes, very knowledgeable about the game, very technically gifted and such. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what he can do in the Premier League. I hope it's not a Denis Suarez situation where he just like doesn't play and is just like, I don't know why they signed him. But I think for overall, he's given the number 11 shirt. I think he's going to be a really, really good addition for Arsenal, especially the way Mikel Arteta likes to play. I think he finally has like a good playmaker that he can trust in Odegaard.
I think that's something that's been kind of missing in that Arsenal starting 11.
Willian was not getting it done.
They don't have a creator. They don't have the maestro pulling the strings. There's no puppet master. It's just pace or just prayers. So I think Martin Odegaard with that 5-star skills, and he's also replicating that left foot, the strong left foot of Ozil. So, and the number on the back of his jersey. Yeah. So I think it's not right to compare him to Ozil because of just they play completely different styles, but I think the magic will be there, and hopefully Odegaard, the wonder kid, will be back, and it'll be cool to see him because I actually haven't seen him play yet.
Yeah,
because I don't really watch Liga, so
yeah, he actually could play this weekend, oddly enough, against Manchester United. But we're talking about that later. But I'm excited to see what he can do. I mentioned that before, but I think I don't know how Arsenal were able to pull this off, but kudos to them to getting a loan deal for him because that's a pretty sweet move for a good attacking player.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. But some of the other moves, William Jose, a Brazilian striker from Real Sociedad, oddly enough, moved to Wolves. I don't know too much about this player. Tyler, I know you wrote this down. I don't know. Do you know anything about William Jose?
So he's like a player I felt like that's been kind of solid in La Liga for the past several seasons. And obviously with Raul Jimenez out for a good portion of this season, and they're playing Fabio Silva, the 17-year-old.
Or like Neto and like Podence, like as like false strikers and such.
Mm-hmm. It's like they really needed someone in. And, William Jose, he's just one of those. I feel like the reason why I mentioned him is because I wouldn't be surprised if he's just one of those immediately just slide into the team kind of players, because he's one of the veterans of La Liga, and having him in for Wolves will kind of fill that little void, kind of put some pressure off Fabio Silva to get the goals as a young man. So we'll see how that goes. But, Wolves has been struggling this season to even get goals. That's why they're in the bottom half of the table. It's been a real, clear issue.
Yeah.
Not having Raul Jimenez there.
They've struggled.
Like literally, we've seen this season, like we've talked about, if there are players you take out of a team, it kind of puts them down a tier. Like taking out Raul Jimenez this season is really showing how much of a drop off there is after he's gone from
kind of a
club.
Scary one, because he kind of
helped really scary.
Yeah, he helped elevate the performances like Adama Traore, Ruben Neves, like their midfielders, like everyone on that team, and now it's just bad. They haven't performed well. And they're, not in a relegation fight, but they're not fighting for the places we thought they were fighting for if they still had Jimenez. But that's a pretty good move for them. And then there's Morgan Sanson moving from Marseille to Aston Villa. I'll refer back to you, Tyler, about this one.
So this player I thought was very interesting too, because this is a player I felt like is a very rare player in that he's a very good box-to-box midfielder that can do a little bit of everything.
Man, they already got Douglas Luiz, man. How many
I know,
more?
but you know how there's like Hullet Gang on FIFA, where it's just, he has above 70 for like most stats. Morgan Sanson, low-key, is just one of those players who's near Hullet Gang like territory. He just can do a little bit of everything, and I feel like this is a very low-key excellent signing for Aston Villa. I was very surprised they managed to get him, and I think he'll be a staple. I mean, Don't quote me, but statistically, just looking at him, I'm just thinking, like that's someone I would want on my team. So this is gonna be a very interesting one to look out for. And of course, the last player we have on the list for now, at least going into the last few days of the transfer window, is Matt Ryan, the Australian goalkeeper for Brighton, is going to Arsenal.
Not the Falcons quarterback.
Not the Falcons quarterback. He's still here unless he gets traded.
Yeah. Which actually could happen, but that's another sports topic for another sports show.
That's our other podcast. No, I'm just kidding. But it was surprising to see Matt Ryan go from Brighton to Arsenal because he's obviously going to be the backup at Arsenal. He is an Arsenal fan, so I could see what the intentions and motivation
just trying to
was.
Find Emi Martinez 2.0.
I guess so, except he's a lot shorter. But something I didn't notice that Yash and I were talking about off air was Brighton don't use Matt Ryan as their starting keeper right now. They use another dude named Sanchez.
Yeah.
So when that happened? So
yeah, because I remember when they faced United, Matt Ryan was still their keeper. So it caught me off guard too. So it must have been something that happened, during December or late November and such.
So potentially it might have just been like a contract issue or just a falling out with the team. But Matt Ryan, he's made his move to Arsenal and will be riding the bench.
Yeah, I wonder what goalkeepers feel like when they're like constantly riding the bench. Like, or you could be like Emi Martinez where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm already good enough. Let me move. But maybe, I don't know, maybe this is a move that helps out Bernd Leno too, now that he has like more serious competition behind him. I know Matt Ryan is like not as good as Bernd Leno, but you never know. It could be one of those things that, David De Gea needed like competition from Dean Henderson to be a little bit better. Maybe that's something why Arsenal did it, but an interesting move because they already have the number one. So yeah, I just found it a little bit interesting. But that was the transfers that happened that have happened. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's still a couple more days left in the window. See if maybe Liverpool signs what was it, Subotic or Subotic or Subotic. See if they get him. We'll see what happens. But we wanted to move on to the preview section here. We got 3 games that are pretty. So we got 3 pretty exciting games. It's a short turnaround, actually a quick turnaround from the midweek games into the weekend. The games are coming like super fast for the Premier League. So the first one, we have Everton versus Newcastle. Everton actually have 2 games on hand that they need to wrap up and continue playing, because if they actually win both of those games in hand, they could move up to 5th place in the table. But Newcastle, my goodness, they are in trouble because they are on a 5-game losing streak right now. 5 or 6 game, and they've just been absolutely awful, and they are really, really close to the relegation fight. If you look at it, I think they are 1 place above Burnley, and they have like 19 points right now. So
now they're 1 point above Brighton. So like Burnley moved up, but they are basically 5 points above relegation zone. That's
not good for a club like Newcastle with the squad of players they have. They should not be anywhere near relegation fight right now, and unfortunately they are, and it's going to be a tough game. I think they will lose this game. Actually, I think Everton will win this. They'll probably win 2-1. Probably Everton will win because I think Everton have the better squad. But guys, I think there might be a coaching change happening in Newcastle soon, especially if their chairman or owner will just care enough to care about the club. But I don't know if we'll see that.
I don't know if that'll even help, because right now you see the Newcastle side is just, as I said in one of the other pods, it's just very structured to strive for just mediocrity.
I know. I feel so bad for Miguel Almiron. He scored a goal, but he's like, I just feel so bad. I feel like he just is not. I felt bad for him because I feel like Rafa Benitez could have been the manager to like help, elevate him to a next level, but he just had like Steve Bruce, and he's just kind of just been like, all he's been deployed as is just like a pace player, and he hasn't been able to develop anything after that. I feel so bad because he was so good at Atlanta United. I was just hoping we could have saw some of that Almiron magic at Newcastle.
Sad vibes only. It's just literally Newcastle are in a bit of a free fall, and it's a little part of everyone involved, whether it be the players, quality of the players, quality of the play, the manager, and the owner. But I feel like after losing 6 games in a row, it's so hard to lose the 7th.
You say that.
So I wouldn't be surprised if of all games, Newcastle get a point out of this one. So I'm going to say 1-1.
Okay. Maybe that's a little bit of that Liverpool bias kicking in. Don't want to see Everton succeed. But no, he's got a valid point there. I'm going 2-1 Everton. He's going 1-1 draw. But now we have West Ham Liverpool, a game that is actually a top half of the table type of fight. West Ham fighting for a top 4 place. Liverpool trying to get closer to the title race. And I know West Ham are doing well right now, but I think if I had to put my money on it, I think Liverpool will probably get the win over here because I think now that Mane, Salah, Firmino, Trent Alexander-Arnold perform well, I think you may see some of that good performances, good vibes kick in for Liverpool. So I'm going to go with a 2-1, again, a 2-1. Or actually, I'm going to go 3-1 victory for Liverpool. I think they'll probably concede one because I think defense overall hasn't been the best, but I think they'll win 3-1.
I'm going to say 2-1. I remember, I feel like last podcast I did all draws, and then I was wrong on all of them. But here we go. We got a win for Liverpool. I got to give the win to Liverpool. And they have a little bit of momentum after just one big win against the Big Six team. But West Ham, once again, is another Big Six team, surprisingly. Yeah. And although I kind of hyped them up, hopefully they don't get hyped this weekend. Maybe just wait till next weekend. But I think, in the past few games for West Ham, they haven't really faced that many big opponents either. Like, Everton, Crystal Palace, West Brom. So I think Liverpool are going to be a whole different tier. And with this slight edge with Liverpool coming up from this past game today, it will help out. And I think Liverpool will get that 2-1 win.
Yeah, that you got 2-1, I got 3-1. And then finally, the biggest game of the weekend, big rivalry right here, Arsenal versus Manchester United. Really interesting fact here is that Manchester United have not beaten Arsenal in the Premier League since April 29th of 2018. That's how long it's been since Manchester United have beaten Arsenal in the Premier League. They beat them in the FA Cup during Solskjaer's interim charge, but haven't beaten them in the Premier League for a very long time. And Arsenal are playing some pretty good stuff, I would say, recently. They've signed Martin Odegaard, who might start this game. A lot of their players are starting to pick up form. Their youngsters are playing well. I think Manchester United can come in and get a result because I think Solskjaer will demand a reaction from the players. And if anything we've seen from this United team, they are a very reactionary team. And I feel like with this loss, I feel like they'll play better, and I feel like there'll be enough to get a 2-1 victory at the Emirates. I think it will be just enough of a reaction they need to get a win against a Big Six, or not technically Big Six in the table right now, but Big Six overall, culture-wise and history-wise club against Arsenal.
I don't know if you call me crazy or if it's just the overall pattern we've been seeing in the Premier League this season, but I'm going to say 0-0 or a 0-0.
Oh, man. He's playing smart. He's playing it smart.
I feel it because it's just all these big games this season. It's been very rare to get a good result. It's just either been both teams playing very conservative, or it's just that key sharpness that you would get in a match day. It's just not there.
Yeah, that fan atmosphere.
Just no atmosphere. And then no atmosphere in a big game. It's just
kickabout.
Another game. So it's not as cool. I think that because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a 0-0. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully with Yosh and I having these two different kind of results, it'll make something
blend
happen
together somehow.
Yes, and then we'll be in between.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I hope I'm going for 2-1 United win. I hope it's an exciting match because that's all we want to see. We just want to see an exciting atmosphere, exciting match and such. So we'll see what happens. I was got a 0-0 going on for the top 6. But that kind of wraps up episode 104 for us. As we always say, though, please make sure to rate, comment, subscribe. You can check us out on YouTube at the Premier Pod. You can also follow us on our social media pages on Instagram and Twitter at the Premier Pod. And as we always say, if you can give us a rate or a subscribe or leave a rating on Apple Podcasts, that helps us out too. But obviously, listening is more than enough for us. And if you want to share this podcast with one of your friends, that will help us out too. Just share it with a buddy, whoever is interested in Premier League, soccer, anything of that nature. Just go ahead and give it a share there. That would be great too. But other than that, thank you guys so much for listening and watching us. That is episode 104 of the Premier Pod. Thank you guys. Peace.
Peace.